The Morrison family's yearly board meeting was always held in their polished skyscraper headquarters, 52 stories above the bustling city below. Today, the grand mahogany boardroom was filled with the usual lineup. My brother James, impeccably dressed in a tailored Tom Ford suit. Uncle Peter, his gold Rolex glinting under the morning sun. And cousin Michael, nodding along as if he grasped a single detail from the quarterly reports. I smoothed the sleeve of my modest Brunello Cucinelli blazer, feeling the cool press of the titanium key card in my pocket, the one that unlocked the private elevator to the penthouse suite. "Olivia, sweetheart, the coffee service is low," James said, eyes still glued to his phone. "Be a dear and take care of that before the actual executives show up." I glanced at my wristwatch, a subtle Patek Philippe that was worth more than his entire car, and smiled faintly. "Of course," I replied, standing up. "Grab my presentation notes from my office while you're at it," Uncle Peter chimed in. "Since you're playing secretary today." Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the skyline. Dozens of buildings below bore the Morrison International logo, yet not one of them knew about the quiet empire I'd been building behind the scenes for the last 3 years. "Take notes for us, sis," James chuckled, scattering papers across the table. "Try to keep up with the big business talk." I took a seat at the far end of the room, opening my laptop. My inbox blinked with urgent updates: the Tokyo merger, the European expansion, the new tech division's launch. I ignored them all. The next hour promised something far more satisfying. "Remember when Olivia actually thought she'd run the company?" Michael sneered. "Now she can't even land a middle management role." James adjusted his tie, the exact model I'd once ordered in bulk for my European team. "Some people just aren't made for real business," he said smugly. "Maybe it's better she sticks to fetching coffee." My phone buzzed quietly. A message from my private board, final papers signed. Announcement in 10 minutes. "At least she dresses decently now," Uncle Peter remarked. "Remember when she worked at that failing tech startup?" I smiled, recalling that so-called failure. The same startup I'd sold for $8 billion last year. That sale had financed my stealth acquisition of Morrison International's controlling shares. Gradually, the room filled with regional directors and mid-level executives. Not one of them looked in my direction. To them, I was just part of the background. Perfect. 3 years of deliberate invisibility had led to this very moment. "The CEO's joining us today," James announced proudly. "Father's finally ready to name his successor." "About time," Uncle Peter agreed, puffing out his chest. "This company needs new blood." "Speaking of which," James added, glancing my way, "we'll need coffee service for 20. Think you can manage that, sis?" I checked my watch again. "The CEO prefers tea, actually. Green. From a specific estate in Japan." Michael scoffed. "And how would you know what the CEO likes?" The double doors to the boardroom swung open. Harrison, the chief of staff, entered the room wearing a look of unease. "Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. The CEO is on their way." Everyone rose except me. James shot me a glare sharp enough to cut glass. "Olivia, show some respect." "Everyone," Harrison declared, his voice echoing through the suddenly hushed boardroom. "Please welcome the CEO of Morrison International." I stayed seated, a small smile tugging at my lips as realization slowly dawned on their faces. "Good morning, everyone. Shall we begin?" James's Mont Blanc pen slipped from his hand and hit the table with a clatter. Uncle Peter's complexion drained to an alarming shade of gray. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, catching the gleaming Morrison International logo on the neighboring tower. The same logo I had secretly redesigned last month. "There must be some mistake," James stammered. "Father was supposed to—" "Father retired last night," I interrupted evenly, rising from my chair. "The board approved the transition 3 months ago." Quietly. "Impossible," Uncle Peter muttered under his breath. "You're just the largest private shareholder," I offered smoothly, "or perhaps the architect of our Asian expansion, the one responsible for tripling the tech division's value." I stepped to the head of the table, my heels clicking softly against the marble. "Or were you referring to the coffee girl?" Without a word, security officers entered and stationed themselves strategically around the room. My team, professionals from the same agency that guarded international dignitaries. Now then, I continued, opening the real quarterly reports. He once revealing my hidden corporate overhaul. Let's take a look at the actual state of Morrison International, shall we? James slouched back, his designer suit suddenly appearing less impressive, almost small. Outside, a helicopter approached in the distance, my helicopter right on time. But you were nothing, Michael stuttered. Just father's disappointment. I smiled, remembering every quiet hour I spent building the empire they never believed I could. Speaking of morning coffee, James, I said lightly, pressing the intercom button. Have my assistant bring in the special reserve, from that little plantation I bought last summer. The sun climbed higher, flooding the boardroom with light and catching the stunned expressions of my family. In my pocket, the titanium keycard felt almost hot, a burning symbol of just how far I'd come. While they assumed I was just there to take notes, the real meeting was only beginning. My assistant entered, pushing the coffee cart. This wasn't ordinary coffee. It was my exclusive blend, harvested from my private estate, served in handcrafted bone china cups worth more than James's monthly salary. The irony was thick enough to taste. Now, I said, settling into my place at the head of the table, let's review the real numbers. I gestured to the surrounding screens, which flickered to life, displaying live, unfiltered data instead of the polished figures they'd been peddling. James leaned in, his skin paling as the truth unfolded before him. The true transformation of Morrison International laid bare. These acquisitions, these figures can't be accurate. Oh, but they are. I replied with a faint smile, sliding through the presentation on my tablet. While you were busy giving me orders, I was quietly executing the most discreet corporate takeover in modern history. Those coffee runs you laughed about? Those so-called secretary duties. Each one was part of the plan. Board meetings with global investors, billion-dollar negotiations, hidden in plain sight. Uncle Peter tugged at his collar, beads of sweat glinting on his forehead. But your office, you're on the 3rd floor. A convenient disguise, I said, tapping the next slide. The screen came alive with a world map. Every branch, every acquisition I'd made under the radar, all while maintaining my facade. My real office, I continued, is the penthouse. The one you've been trying to enter for months. The titanium key card in my pocket felt heavier as I watched realization spread across their faces, disbelief giving way to panic. Just last quarter, I said, pulling up another report, my tech initiative outperformed all your traditional divisions combined. Those failing startups you mocked? They've become the core of our digital empire. Harrison moved around the table, handing each executive a tablet loaded with the data. Gasps echoed as the numbers spoke for themselves. James clutched his tablet with shaking hands, his immaculate Tom Ford suit suddenly looking too tight. The Asian expansion, he whispered, was finalized 6 months ago, I finished for him. Those late nights you ridiculed? I was closing deals in Tokyo, Beijing, and Singapore while you bragged about your golf handicap. A notification flashed across the main display. European markets were open, and Morrison International stock was skyrocketing amid rumors of a leadership shift. But father, Uncle Peter began, fully endorsed this transition, I cut in smoothly. He recognized genuine business sense, something you were too busy pretending to have. Those private dinners you mocked? They were strategic sessions for this very day. Through the glass wall, the helicopter I'd seen earlier touched down on our helipad. A group of international executives stepped out, my Real board, arriving for the official announcement. Speaking of strategy, I said, switching slides, let's move on to the restructuring. James shot up from his chair. You can't just walk in here, and I can, I said evenly, and I already have. I hold controlling interest through a carefully layered network of shell corporations. While you were laughing at me, I was building an empire. Security advanced. The same guards James once told to escort me through the staff entrance. Your roles, I continued, are being reassigned. James, you'll now report to our new VP of Public Relations. Remember Amanda from the mailroom? Turns out her Harvard MBA and strategic insight are exactly what this company needs. The mailroom, he stammered. Never underestimate someone because of their title, I said with a knowing smile. Isn't that right, brother? The boardroom doors opened once more, revealing my team, the brilliant executives I'd handpicked while pretending to be the overlooked daughter. Every one of them was chosen for innovation, not inheritance, for skill, not status. Uncle Peter, I said, turning toward his pale face, your division will merge with our tech initiative. You'll report to Director Chan. Yes, the IT specialist you kept calling to fix your printer. Beyond the glass, more helicopters were landing, media crews arriving to cover the story. The world was about to witness the truth. This is ridiculous, Michael stammered, his voice cracking. You can't possibly comprehend. I raised a hand to silence him just as my phone projected the latest market update across the table. Morrison International stock had surged 12% following leaked reports about the leadership transition. Oh, I understand plenty, I replied coolly. Enough to double our market capitalization while you were busy critiquing my coffee-fetching skills. I rose from my chair. Now, shall we move on to the real meeting? The one where we decide how Morrison International becomes the most forward-thinking corporation on the planet. By then, the morning sun had climbed to its highest point, flooding the boardroom and stretching my shadow across the table. Reflected in the glass walls, I saw two images. The old empire my family built collapsing, and my vision taking shape from the ruins. Oh, and James, I added, straightening my blazer with a faint smile. About that coffee service, get it yourself. As the afternoon light lengthened across the boardroom, I brought to a close what would soon be remembered as the most transformative meeting in Morrison International's history. The global press conference was set to begin in 30 minutes, and already the lobby below buzzed with reporters and cameras. Before we wrap up, I said, scanning the stunned faces around the table, let's confront the obvious. Yes, I'm the daughter you dismissed, but I'm also the CEO who turned our failing family business into a global powerhouse while you were too distracted to notice. James, still reeling from the morning's bombshells, tried to muster one last objection. The board won't stand for. The board already has, Harrison interrupted smoothly, passing out another stack of documents. Dr. Morrison's leadership has been unanimously confirmed. Her strategy has raised our valuation by 340% in just 3 years. Michael's throat tightened. Doctor, he croaked, you didn't really think those night classes were cooking lessons, did you? I said, smiling. Dual PhDs, International Business and Technology Integration. I defended both dissertations while acquiring your pet projects and overhauling our global operations. The monitors around the room flickered to reveal our new organizational chart. My relatives' titles had been quietly downgraded to minor roles, while previously ignored employees now occupied executive seats. Sarah, from accounting, Uncle Peter blurted out, recognizing his replacement. She's just a financial genius, I cut in. The one who predicted market shifts with 97% accuracy. While you were enjoying 3-hour lunches, she was developing AI-driven investment models that saved this company billions. My phone vibrated with a steady stream of congratulatory messages from world leaders, industry innovators, and the kind of people who actually mattered. My true peers, not the country club acquaintances my family once mistook for influence. The artwork in the lobby, James blurted out, realization flickering across his face. You changed it last month. Very perceptive, I replied with a nod. Every piece was made by employees you never bothered to notice. That maintenance man who replaced the bulbs? He's actually a celebrated light installation artist. And the cleaning woman you used to complain about? Her sculptures are worth millions. Outside, news helicopters hovered above the building, capturing the spectacle below as our rebranding was revealed. The outdated, stuffy logos were gone, replaced by a sleek new design symbolizing transformation and progress. Your office assignments will be updated by the end of the day, I continued evenly. James, your new workspace on the 3rd floor should be quite comfortable. I certainly found it so, while planning your downfall from it. The intercom buzzed sharply. Dr. Morrison, the international press is waiting. Excellent timing, I said, straightening my blazer. Let's introduce the world to the new face of Morrison International. Wait, James called after me, his tone small, almost childlike. Where did we go wrong? I paused at the doorway. You saw only what you wanted to see. A daughter playing pretend in the business world. What you didn't realize was that while you were judging my coffee fetching, I was outmaneuvering you in the real one. The security team closed ranks around me. Not that I needed protection anymore. The power dynamic had already shifted for good. One more thing, I added, turning back. Those companion seats on the corporate jet you argued over? I sold them. We now operate a fleet of eco-friendly aircraft, piloted by that simple man you mocked, who happens to be a retired Air Force general. As I made my way to the press conference, I passed a wall lined with portraits of former CEOs. Every one of them male, cut from the same narrow mold. By tomorrow, my portrait would join them, but it wouldn't stand alone. I had commissioned paintings of every employee whose brilliance had been stolen or dismissed by their superiors, each one finally credited by name. The lobby grew silent as I stepped up to the podium, cameras flashing like bursts of lightning. Through the glass behind me, my family watched as their empires shifted before their eyes. The Morrison legacy would no longer symbolize privilege and mediocrity. It would stand for innovation, inclusivity, and true excellence. Good afternoon, I began, my voice resonating through the quiet. Today marks the beginning of a new era for Morrison International, one where skill outweighs status, where creativity surpasses inheritance, and where leadership is measured by how many people you lift up, not how many you look down upon. In the back of the room, I spotted Amanda from the mailroom, now a regional vice president, smiling with quiet pride. Beside her stood Director Cha, Sarah from accounting, and the rest of the team who had helped execute this transformation while pretending to play along with my family's outdated world. The future, I went on, belongs to those who see potential where others see subordinates. Oh, those who understand that genius can emerge from any desk, not just the corner office. Upstairs, my family watched on the monitors as their carefully built hierarchy collapsed. But this wasn't vengeance, it was evolution. I smiled at the cameras. Now, I said, let me introduce you to the real Morrison International, the one we built while they weren't paying attention. Sunlight spilled through the atrium's glass ceiling, illuminating the space like a promise. I looked around at what I had created from the ruins of their arrogance. Sometimes I thought the best way to break a glass ceiling is to quietly construct your own skyscraper.